Good evening. This is Team Southwest, and we're here to talk about Coca-Cola, their supply chain, and some sustainability. First, we'll start with the organization background. Coca-Cola's mission statement is to refresh the world in mind, body, and spirit, to inspire moments of optimism and happiness through our brands and actions, to create value and make a difference. The initial history of Coca-Cola. It began in Atlanta and was developed by Dr. John Pemberton, a pharmacist, in 1886. He began by selling the syrup to other soda fountains around Atlanta, and in 1894, bottling began. In 1899, three lawyers purchased the rights to bottle and sell Coca-Cola throughout the United States. The values of Coca-Cola Company: leadership, collaboration, integrity, accountability, passion, diversity, and quality. The goals of the corporation: people, the portfolio, partners, planet, profit, and productivity. Some competitive advantages of the Coca-Cola Company: their secret recipe, which is arguably the best soda recipe in the world; their comprehensive distribution system, which allows them to reach markets that other consumer goods are not able to; their efficient production, which helps fatten up their profit margin. They produce over 400 brands in over 200 countries; their attractive and recognizable packaging; and their adaptability in new markets. Here's a SWOT analysis, which we will discuss during our discussion part of this presentation.
Now I'll talk about some of the bottling components. So, as Evan mentioned, they transitioned to bottling in 1894. Let's talk about how they initially expanded through that bottling process. The three attorneys mentioned divided the United States into territories, which they each individually went out looking for local entrepreneurs throughout the country to purchase their own bottling rights on a local level. This allowed for rapid expansion and was also partially their popularity was fueled by the advent of the classic Coke contour bottle in 1916. In the 1920s, bottled sales overtook the fountain sales, and global expansion began in the late 1920s to reach 44 countries by World War II, and then soon after World War II, they were in just over 60 countries. With this local bottling model, the supply chain was exposed more to demand variability, with their locations being dispersed and not able to dilute that demand variability. Added variety is something that you could see throughout Coca-Cola's growth. They were looking for product differentiation in order to dominate multiple segments of the beverage market rather than purely be in the soda market. And this continued past the 1990s, as Evan mentioned, to over 400 different brands that can allow them to have differentiated options across the market. Coming from this small local model eventually was a push to consolidate into larger facilities. Coca-Cola felt the need for this initiative to match the transition of retailers to regional and global scales. So even though some of the bottlers were purely independent, Coca-Cola helped fund the consolidation of the bottling practices. This allowed for design of new facilities or expansion of existing facilities where they were going to do this pooling, which allowed for a lower cost with economies of scale and increased efficiency and cost cutting in production. This also decreased exposure to demand variability. When you have variability in demand and it's part of a larger pool of sales, changes in it are less as a percentage of the whole. So this pooling helps decrease exposure to variability. Lastly, we'll do a little bit of an overview of the bottling process. Here, the steps in brown involve the bottling process, and in pink involve the packaging. Obviously, Coca-Cola hopes to deliver a quality and consistent product across the world. So water treatment is very important to the process to create a consistent product. Also, they need to take their supplies and prepare them for bottle filling by receiving them, blowing out the molds, and then getting them ready to fill. In the packaging components, they must label, secondary package, whether that be into cases or packs of cans, and then pallet and shrink wrap, where they then move it to temporary warehousing, kind of as a buffer as they decide where that demand is needed. With that in mind, these transitions to a consolidated bottling model did not involve necessarily getting rid of the old facilities in order to reach one of their main goals, which being able to consistently deliver a product. Many of these small bottling companies kept the name bottling company but became distribution centers at a local level to then meet the demand of retailers. And Matt and Emily are going to talk about the sustainability efforts of Coca-Cola.
Yeah, so what you see on the screen right now is basically Coca-Cola's main sustainability mission statement, and I'll just let you read that on your own. And really, what we wanted to do was just focus in on what we believe to be the 3 key performance indicators for the industry, which are greenhouse gas emissions, packaging and waste, and water. And so covering that first one with the greenhouse gas emissions, Coca-Cola has made strides to reduce its carbon footprint throughout its entire value chain. The company has brought together several sustainability initiatives under one goal, which they call the Drink in Your Hand. And they developed this back in 2003. And basically, the plan was to implement these goals through the manufacturing processes, the packaging formats, the delivery fleet, the refrigeration equipment, and ingredient sourcing. And just to throw out a few examples of how they're actually doing that, with their vehicles, they're trying to switch them over to different alternative fuel sources. And in their manufacturing facilities, they're trying to reduce electricity usage by, setting up facilities that can run on solar. And diving now into the packaging, here's a little overview of just the packaging history for the company. They have made several key developments throughout the decades in improving its packaging and material quality within its bottling and manufacturing facilities. Starting back in 1978, they introduced the first resealable and recyclable 2-liter plastic bottle, short for PET. And later in 1991, they introduced plastic bottles with recycled content. And initiatives have been set in place to make packaging 100% recyclable by 2025 and 50% recycled material for packaging by 2030. And as of today, their packaging is 87% recyclable. So they are slowly but surely making these goals a reality. And most recently, they introduced to the market what they call a plant bottle, which contains 30% plant-based bottle in replace of other petrochemicals. So since its introduction, the plant bottle packaging has been distributed in a variety of packaging sizes across water, sparkling, juice, and tea beverage brands, everywhere from Coca-Cola to Dasani. And today, the plant bottle packaging accounts for 30% of the company's packaging volume in North Carolina and 7% globally, which equates to 6 billion bottles annually, which is a substantial amount. And then diving into the ways they're collecting the actual bottles, they're realizing that they cannot run on a linear system here, essentially making a single-use item and then it ending up in the landfills. And so they're really trying to make efforts to recollect the bottles and cans and were introduced into the market itself. And, the company is making hundreds of billions of cans. And so this is definitely a priority for them. And The company states that with the recycled materials in PET plastic production, Coca-Cola can reduce their carbon footprint by up to 60% within the production process, which is a substantial amount. All right, now switching over here to Emily.
Awesome. So I'm going to talk about water stewardship. So Coca-Cola acknowledges that water is at the core of their business. They have committed to several water stewardship goals, including managing wastewater, partnering with governments and NGOs to support water-stressed communities, and replenish water used back to nature. Coca-Cola plans to improve water efficiency by 25% compared to 2010 standards by 2020. Currently, Coca-Cola claims that they only use 1.92 liters of water to make 1 liter of Coke, and they hope to reduce that usage down to 1.7 liters. Coke also pledges to return every drop of water used back to nature. However, according to The Verge, this water only includes the water that is used inside the product itself, not the water used throughout the supply chain. This means that for every half-liter bottle of Coke, Coca-Cola is returning half a liter of water instead of the 35 liters of water it takes to produce that half-liter bottle of Coke per 2008 production. Despite Coca-Cola's efforts to present themselves as positive stewards, Indians have been outraged by their practices. In 2004, thousands of people held a 10-day march due to their belief that Coca-Cola was depleting precious groundwater. A protest organizer was quoted saying, "Coca-Cola is creating thirst in India and is directly responsible for the loss of livelihood and even hunger for thousands of people across India." In 2014, the Indian government ordered a plant in the state of Uttar Pradesh to close due to evidence of depleting groundwater. In 2017, concerns around Coca-Cola's operations were so intense that over 1,000 traders in India boycotted carbonated beverages due to claims that they were depleting